And presto, we have sound. Thank you, Freddie. Welcome to Prep Extra Live, the playoff edition. You can now hear what we're about to say. Week 1 of the playoffs are in the books.
What a night.
Yeah, and as usual, there were some surprises. And, I got to say, I tweeted this, during my game, and I it really kind of hit home close again, tonight. And I never put my finger on this, Freddie, but the first round is your toughest win. I mean, it really is, because after that, you can just kind of relax. Yeah, the stakes are higher in the semis or the championship or whatever, but the first round, if you can just get that over with, it's kind of like the pressure comes off and, okay, next week we can play football, we can do what we can do. We avoided that upset, type of thing.
That depends who you are, though. I think for some of those teams that are favored, that pressure's off because they're kind of expected to win, especially the league champions and such. And there were some big blowouts with some of the league champions, but there were also a lot of close games. A lot of those 2 versus 2s were some pretty good games, too.
But that's why I'm saying that. There were some blowouts with those league champions because, man, it's hard to win in the first round. Yeah. Like, look at what happened to Arroyo tonight. They lose 35-28.
35-28, yeah.
To Covina. They just came off that big, win last week over Rosemead for the Mission Valley League Championship game. And it's hard. Once you come off that Week 10 celebration of that league championship, Freddie, it's hard to get back up.
Yeah.
And it cost some teams tonight, and some teams, obviously, it didn't. But every year, it seems like, it's very difficult on these teams.
Well, the Mid-Valley Division, the Mission Valley League went 0-3 tonight. That was one of those things, I think I'd mentioned that in one of our drills that I thought they would, because I kind of thought Covina would get them. That was a 28-7 game, and Arroyo really rallied, made it a game, and had a chance at the end. But big one for Covina. I mean, so they go 0-3, and the reverse of that is the Valley Vista League went 3-0 tonight. I mean, San Dimas, Northview, Covina all win. Big night for them.
So the division basically comes down to the Gold Coast League, the Valle Vista League, and Baldwin Park, or Sure?
Yeah, I think the Gold Coast
won?
Yeah, I
think
the Gold Coast went 3-1.
Yeah.
And 3 of they're all blowouts.
Yeah, how about the blowout that Viewpoint put on
Montebello?
Montebello,
Oh my God, I couldn't believe that.
That's, let me
run down those scores really quick in the Mid-Valley Division. So Sierra Canyon, 60-69, 18 over El Monte. Sure beat Baldwin Park, 27-26. Northview, an easy 48-17 winner over Rosemead. Pomona, 40-33 over Brentwood. They came back. They won that game in the final minute.
Wow.
You just said it. Viewpoint, 49-0 over Montebello. Covina, 35-28.
Yeah.
San Dimas, all the way, 49-21 over Bassett, and Paraclete ran Azusa. So really quick, just letting you know, next week in the Mid-Valley Division, Aaron, we've got Sure. What's that?
Bright enough?
Looks good. Okay. We've got next week, Mid-Valley Division, second round, Sierra Canyon at Sure, Pomona at Northview, Viewpoint at Covina, Paraclete at San Dimas. There's your Mid-Valley Division. And some interesting games. I mean, Pomona Northview, that game is a super intriguing game for me, Aram. And after what Viewpoint did to Montebello, I mean, you got to think Covina's going to go down.
Yeah, what was so funny is I liked that draw for Covina or Arroyo because I thought, hey, Montebello's vulnerable in the second round.
Yeah.
But you didn't. If you're one of those two teams, you didn't want to see them kill Montebello 49-0. Now you're wondering what kind of juggernaut you're going up against.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what to say. I don't know if San Dimas can handle Paraclete, Freddie, out there. It is out there, right?
Yeah. It'll be on the road.
Northview Pomona, that's a killer game. And then Sierra Canyon, sure, great win. Your season's probably over.
Yeah.
Because I've just heard nothing but rave reviews about Sierra Canyon. Anyways.
That's...
Yeah, let's move on here. We'll start with the game that Fred was at tonight in the Pac-5, Bishop Amat. Freddie, give the final score here. This was get out your calculator time.
It was Bishop Amat. They scored the second most points they've ever scored in team history in a single game.
Wow.
72 points. They beat Norco 72-36.
They have to.
In a game they were losing 16-0 early.
Right.
And let me tell you something. That 16-0, Verdemontes, the guy who plays for Norco, going to Michigan. That guy went Stanton on him. You remember Stanton, the guy from Santa Margarita?
Right.
Big physical kid, was just carrying Almont guys early. It really looked like a situation that Almont was going to. It was like Khalil Tate. This guy was just going to go off on him all night. And you could hear the groans in the crowd in the early frustration of people screaming, tackle.
Yeah. What's this screaming stuff, Fred?
Because I'm in the press box and I could hear everything.
Your tweets, man, early on when they were down 16-0, man, I was starting to worry about you, man. You said there were screams? Screams for people from the stands screaming like tackle, just screaming at the players and every. That's what I meant. What do you think I meant? Like screams of horror. We're gonna lose, I mean, you said Almont's in big trouble.
They were getting nervous. The way
you were getting nervous.
The way that game. I wasn't.
Did you see his tweet? He said Almont's in big trouble.
Yeah, they were in big trouble.
Come on, Fred.
They were down 2 touchdowns.
Sometimes that happens in playoff games. You start off slow and then you kind of steamroll the rest of the game. I've seen that.
Yeah, but here's what happened in the second quarter. Almont put on 42 points in the second quarter to take have 51 points at halftime. I mean,
and it's like they're up by 21 at half, right?
Yeah, by 21 at half.
And at that point, you're just going to Selfieville, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to get selfies. You're like, this one's in the house. We got this one, no problem. I'm going to go take selfies.
Yeah,
right?
We were done at halftime.
That's what it seemed like.
Yeah, we were done at halftime, kind of just walking around. I was talking to Tom Kiss, Courtney Ponce. They're going to have video highlights. Yeah, it's down there. She was in the crowd in the dog pound. They took care of her. You're going to have some great stuff tonight when Tom gets through with that video. And also, talked to a lot of players. Courtney, she talked to Steve Haggerty tonight. You're going to have about 2 minutes of Steve Haggerty, and he's going to give us.
He talked to you though.
He talked to her. It just didn't happen. I mean, I didn't walk up and talk to him, and he didn't talk to me. Every other person is friendly there. The bottom line is, we're going to have him talking tonight. We'll look in the morning and see what he had to say.
Sweet, big night tonight. 178 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and he.
These are the games that are really starting to count up for
and he broke
Player of the
Donnie
Year.
McCluskey's
there you go.
record, 2001 touchdowns in a season. Sweet now has 30,
awesome.
And we've still got games to play.
Yeah. Awesome.
Damian Garcia threw 5 touchdown passes.
Yeah.
That's not to be lost. And
Vaughn's had 3 TDs?
He had 3 TDs. Sidney had 3 TDs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just an offensive explosion that they could have scored 100 tonight if they really wanted to go after him and do something like that.
Right, and now here comes Oaks Christian next week, and this will be at Almont.
This will be at Almont.
Yeah, so Oaks Christian, the number I guess that is 3 seed, will be playing at Bishop Amat next week. Oaks Christian hasn't lost a game yet. As promised, I tallied up the scores because I don't know if you saw your boy Sondheimer tonight was tweeting kind of this. My words, not his, but the gist of what he was tweeting was what kind of a joke the Pac-5 was tonight. He said it was like the division of the running clock. I do kind of wonder tonight, Freddie, of all the divisions that we have in the Southland, did any other division have more running clocks than the Pac-5 did?
Well, you'd have to go through and look at it.
That's kind of scary if that's the case, because that's not what it's supposed to be.
I know that there's a lot in this Mid-Valley we could talk about right now, almost, except for Pomona, Brentwood. A lot of these were running clocks.
Well, like I said,
clock at my game in the Southeast.
I had a running clock. Yeah, well, I was at the.
You had running clock yours too. Okay, yeah, I didn't, and I was at San Marino. Jeez, go figure.
And you had the 7:30 start.
Yeah, great. That was nice to find out at 3 this afternoon. And it was it was originally a 7 o'clock start. Anyways.
Well, the cousin jinxed that when he said they could start at.
Hey, how about the cousin? He had to leave in the middle of the thing. His wife called him Sarah. They could be having a baby right now for all we know. And Mike went old school. He didn't know if it's going to be a boy or girl. They were going to wait till she gave birth to find out.
Last week's Rosemead game, he was like the same thing. He said, I might have to leave, wife's pregnant down the street,
How you like that? He said, I'm not game, and I'll meet you at the hospital, honey.
So here we go. More Pac-5 futility. Lakewood, Jordan, the team Corona, and the team Loyola played tonight, who was another one of those...
Jordan.
Those great, was that Jordan?
Who played Jordan tonight?
Or who played LB Wilson? Was that Oaks Christian? No, Oaks Christian played played Jordan.
I don't know if
that's the third place
these Morning teams will be in the Mid Valley.
Yeah.
Bobby Wilson had
the final scores.
They were a first place team, so they had to play.
Great. What a great first place team. The final scores were 242 to 37. Like I said to Sondheimer tonight on Twitter, we don't need no stinking new playoff format. Everything's just fine. This is the Pac-5, home of the running clock in the first round. Why have Mission Viejo up here to play some of these teams? You don't need that. You can just play Lakewood. All right. Anyways, Freddie has no comment to that.
Well, your solution is let's bring Mission Viejo up so they can get beat in the first round by one of these teams, and let's
I don't think they would get beat.
Why do you think they're going to get beat in the first round?
What?
I don't think they'd get beat in the first round.
But who are they going to play?
Well, these are teams that were playing.
You're looking at right now we're at the top.
The Corona played St. John Bosco. Okay, fine. But we're talking about teams that played Loyola, teams that played Oaks Christian, teams that played Mater Dei.
Okay.
You don't think Mission Viejo would give any of those teams a better game if not win the game?
Would, Aaron, but you're talking. That's the example. I mean, you're giving one team. We're talking about recreating all the divisions. You go ahead and you're living on this one example about Mission Viejo.
You don't think I could find 10 teams better than Long Beach Jordan?
No. But I'm saying is you're still taking teams out of divisions they have a good chance to win, so they can lose first round games, so they could be the team that goes to Corona and wins it. Meanwhile, what you want to do is drop those Lakewoods and those teams down to divisions where they can win.
Yeah, I'm not taking those teams out of divisions that oh man, we could have won this division. I'm not doing that. They did that themselves. Mission Viejo got dropped last year. They won their division. They should be back up. They're going to win their division probably this year. I'm only taking teams like CIF will do that won their divisions last year, Freddie, or were second, like Vista Marietta was second.
That's a whole different
to Mission
animal.
Viejo.
So your great system, what you're going to do is, let's say Bishop Amat, for example, they just come off 2 great years, right? So next year, let's put them in the Super Division when they're probably reloading. They're not nearly as good as the last 2 years. Now you're putting a group of players who aren't ready for it in a division they have absolutely no chance of winning because they've been good the past 2 years with a junior, senior-led team. So there's your formula.
Well,
how does that help next year's team?
And after if they tank next year, then they'll get moved down.
Tank. So they have to be the sacrificial guys next year. It doesn't matter. Amat's going to be in the number 1 division regardless. But that example works more towards some of these lower level teams that have great senior years and they've had 2 good years in a row. Now you're gonna move them up when they really, they could be completely reloading again. It doesn't work, Aram.
I think Mission Viejo is reloading every year. I think Vista Marietta is another one. There's a lot of examples of teams that kick butt in their divisions every year, and eventually should get moved up. And here we go. I mean, Mission Viejo would be one of them. And wouldn't you have rather seen Mission Viejo Mater Dei tonight, or Mission Viejo Loyola? Or Mission Viejo Oaks Christian.
Mission Viejo, I'd have liked to have seen that.
That would have been much better.
Been nice. For the fans, I think it would have been nice. But for those teams, they're not going to like it. I'm just telling you.
There just shouldn't be this kind of disparity in the top division in SoCal. So last question now, Freddie, about Bishop Amat.
But when you get to these final 8, there's 2 super teams, and these next 6 in that division are all pretty competitive.
Fair enough.
As you get to the quarterfinals, it's going to get.
It's not going to be as big a disaster as it was tonight. But anyways, you can guarantee this will be used as an example, by the way, in January when they argue to change it. But anyways, your Bishop Amat heat check, Freddie. You kind of give us one every week. I mean, what do you think? You still kind of thinking like, hey, this team, this is where they are, just one cut below the big 2, or are they now creeping into that big 2? Are they further away from it?
Well, I came away from it thinking, one, a superstar player, especially at quarterback, a guy that is that versatile, and we've seen it twice now, does give their defense problems. I give Amat a lot of credit because they really did solve it at one point. They really started packing it and getting to him. But their offense, Aram, to me, I mean, you think of all the running clocks Amat's had this year and all of the 40-50, tonight a 72-point game. They've shown me they could score with anyone. Maybe they can score. I mean, they scored more points on them than Centennial put on Norco. Amat is showing. I mean, Amat didn't punt tonight. They didn't punt tonight. I mean, every time they got the ball, they scored. The only time they didn't, they fumbled the ball early, which led to one of their touchdowns in the 16-0 deficit. But they are so versatile and so good offensively. I mean, Damian Garcia, he threw 5 touchdown passes, but also was running the ball well. I mean, he really got it to, some of the throws to Vons and Sidney are just like alley-oop passes to the corner where they just go up and grab the ball and bring it down. And then you have Sweet, that X factor who can, at any time can break it off. They're so versatile offensively that I think with a lot of defenses, they're going to be able to score a lot of points now. But I don't know. When we get to Bosco and Centennial, if they get that far, those teams, even against other good teams, don't really give up anything. So that's what we're going to have to find out. I think those teams are going to be able to score on Amat. They're going to be able to score 40 points on Amat. Well, can Amat score 50 to win a game like that?
The question in that game, those going to be like run and gun basketball games, and whether Amat can keep up. When you get behind in games like that early, you feel like you're always chasing, and it's really hard.
Sounds like the Big 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's and I don't want to, Oaks Christian's next. I don't think you should be anyone should look at. They're the number 3 seed. They're 11-0. They won their game easily tonight, although it was a Moore League team. And when you look at their schedule, they don't really have that eye-popping win that makes you go, wow. Their league was okay. It wasn't great. In the non-league, like I said, they didn't play anyone spectacular. You kind of like Amat at home in that game next week. I don't know, Aaron. You asked me for a heat check. I think they're playing as well as they can possibly play right now. I think we are watching the ceiling of this team, and we're going to find out in the next couple of weeks if that ceiling is good enough.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, Bishop Amat will be home next week to Oaks Christian. Moving on, we'll go to the Southeast Division now. One of the huge wins of the night. St. Francis goes to Warren, the San Gabriel Valley League's number 1. And St. Francis gets the road win as the number 3 team out of the Angeles League. Now, what's that mean? Like I said, when I picked St. Francis to go to the finals,
they got your cousin back on that team, and that makes it really
my
good.
cousin, Armenian Thunder, Eric Nazarian had a big night from what I understand, but nonetheless. How about these tweets that I'm reading? Jim Bonds on 4th and inches from his own 10-yard line in the second half of a close game. He goes for it. Wow. And he got it. But on his own 10-yard line on 4th and inches.
What was the situation?
I don't know. They were up by a score or 2 points or whatever. But the situation was win or go home, Fred, and Bonds doesn't want to go home.
That's pretty gutsy.
So now,
gutsy. I mean, good that he got it. If he doesn't get it, he's really hearing it.
Well, I mean,
if you don't hear it, that's a game decider.
Fair enough. All right. So, anyways,
gutsy call.
The reason why I liked St. Francis in this bracket because now things kind of open up for them. They have a home game against Burroughs next week. I don't know the score tonight between Burroughs and Norwalk, but I thought it was somewhat close. If I'm not mistaken, I thought it was like 19-15 or something like that.
Halftime score, and it was pretty close.
Yeah, if you can't blow out Norwalk like what La Mirada did, then how good are you? So
we're gonna be
that's a Pacific League team going on the road against St. Francis. You're going to favor St. Francis in that game, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to be the favorite, even though this is the number 4 seed that they're going to be playing. Yeah. And if they win that game, up at the top, did Lucerna beat Paramount?
Yeah.
Okay, what was the score? Was that close or?
It was 49-21.
Okay, so Lucerna moves on, and Lucerna will play the winner of Mayfair Harvard Westlake. I don't know if that was Harvard Westlake.
Yeah. I think it was Harvard Westlake.
Okay.
I know they were up.
So
1 with late in the game.
Oh God, that was a close game. Yeah. Wow, go figure. Okay, so anyway, so here it is. St. Francis, I think, got the toughest win that they're going to get, or that they're going to need to get. Until maybe the semis or the finals, Freddie.
And the great thing about a win like that is you go on the road and get it. So you're home in the second round. And when you look down the road at that possible semifinal, you've banked a road game already. I mean, everything. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better for them. I mean, you hate to have that super tough first round game, but when you win it and you get by it and you're moving on, all of a sudden you're right, Aaron. Yeah. It just opens up, and they can really put their foot in the gas now and see what happens.
Elsewhere in the division, the game that Steve Ramirez was at tonight, La Mirada takes care of Santa Fe. La Mirada, Freddie, they're into the second round. The first round jinx of the last 2 years, it's over. The pressure is off. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Maybe the pressure's off them now completely, and they can just put their heads down and play ball. This was a game Stevie was at. We don't need you to give us play-by-play, Stevie, because it was like 66-6 or something.
No, it was 55-6.
Okay.
La Mirada scored on every possession. They didn't have to punt.
Wow. Did you hear that? Okay.
They kicked 2 field goals.
Now.
But it was 27-0 at half. So.
What's so funny?
Yeah.
But a key part came after the game.
Yeah, this is what I like.
Santa Fe, their coaches and looked like an administrator were hushing them away. They didn't even want to shake hands. And I talked to Coach Machete, and he thought that was classless. I kind of agree with him. I think even if you're mad at someone, there's such a tradition of shaking hands. You've got to put that aside. Say the better team won tonight, and just move on.
Yeah. Now I actually took a little heat from those close to me this week about not delving into this. I did print, that Machete said that the coaching staffs don't like each other.
Yeah.
Okay, and I had only said, hey, some of it has to do with the fact that Christian Lara, the QB from Santa Fe 2 years ago, transferred to La Mirada, was their QB last year. He's since graduated. There was some animosity over that, but I didn't mention that 2 La Mirada players from last year transferred, 2 or 3, and were playing at Santa Fe this year. And then I think it was 3 years ago or whatever it was that we talked about, Santa Fe actually gave La Mirada the boot from the postseason.
Yeah.
So these programs, like Machete said, the coaching staffs didn't like each other. I still think, like you said, you got to just grin and bear it, shake hands at the end of the game.
Yeah.
And, you don't have to say much. Just shake hands and say goodbye.
And at least let the players shake hands.
Oh, the players didn't shake hands?
Yeah.
I thought the coaches just didn't shake hands.
No, they just had their...
Come on, Fred.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Come on, Fred.
They just made sure their players just walked.
Don't they ever watch hockey, the Stanley Cup Finals? This is what you do at the end of a game. You go and you shake hands. You're in the playoffs. This is the end of your season. I mean, that you don't go out and not shake hands and say congratulations, even though it's hard. I mean, that's what sports are all about. Or in that moment when they're tough, still doing the right thing. There have been plenty of times, all of us probably, anyone that has lost that super tough game, or even a bet with a friend, whether you're over a game, you got to go and shake their hands and say, you got me. I mean, that's what sports is all about.
What is it? Victory with honor? Is that the CIF motto?
Yeah. Well,
you've seen La Mirada this year?
This is my second La Mirada game.
What do you think?
They're pretty impressive. I mean, tonight they just decided we're gonna pound the rock. And
are they going to the finals?
I think they are.
Yeah, I do too.
See what
on their side of the bracket.
La Mirada Twitter, they sent me a direct message earlier this week. Just watch a 2-minute drill. We are not going to let you retire, and they didn't. They didn't let me retire. I said I'd retire if they lost in their first round.
You'd retire and join Machete's staff. I'm sure he was pumped about that. Anyway, so La Mirada, Mike Machete, they get the huge win tonight. They're into the second round. They can finally exhale and now concentrate on winning a championship. Whittier, Stevie, bad loss to Downey.
Yeah.
5-7. They're gone. So that's, for as far as local concerns go, for us, it's now Lucerna, St. Francis.
Well, in the Southwest Division, we
got La Mirada.
We got La Habra.
Well, I'm talking in the Southeast.
In the Southeast.
Yeah, in the Southwest, La Habra, easy win tonight, right?
And
they're the number 1 seed.
A big win.
Did they win?
Yeah, they won 42-13 over Tustin.
Wow.
That's kind of a big surprise for me. I thought Tustin, traditionally Tustin is known for their big offensive linemen. And
right.
You think they'd be able to control Sonora, who lost to Buena Park last week.
Didn't happen.
But who knows? Maybe Sonora may be able to play their way into,
Well, we'll have to see how, what the strength of that league was.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the Central Division, loaded with local teams.
Oh, man.
Charter Oak, your top seed, takes care of business. Freddie, give me the final between South Hills and Summit.
That was a game that was South Hills put a scare on Summit.
Yeah.
The final
they were
score,
up 21-20.
It was 28-28, and then Summit pulled away. They went 59-35.
Okay.
But that one tells you a little. To score 59 points on South Hills is pretty good with their defense. But South Hills to be in that game really late. That say more about Summit or South Hills?
Says more about Summit, in my opinion. And Summit is the team that was made, and I guess it really doesn't matter now, but Summit was a team that was made the 2 seed over San Marino. They were both 10-0, and I guess CIF just thought strength of schedule-wise, Summit had the better strength of schedule.
You can argue that.
I guess you could, but this was a San Marino team that their closest win was 35 points. Come on, Fred. When does that happen? How is that not your number 2? San Marino people won't say it.
I don't think it really matters.
It only matters in this sense. I wanted San Marino and Glendora on the same side of the bracket. If Summit could have been up with Charter Oak, we could have gotten San Marino Glendora in the semis, and just as a fan, I would love to see that.
But those teams were going to be 2 and 3 regardless. They were going to, they were still going to meet in the semifinals. Whether San Marino was 2 and Summit was 3, they still meet in the semifinals. Glendora was always going to be 4.
Well, then I guess I wish San Marino was 4.
Yeah.
Glendora was 4.
Yeah. I don't.
You don't think they could have made Summit 4 and put Glendora at 2 or 3?
I don't think you put a 10-0 team 4. You're. Well, it's not a, I get it. You were looking at your own personal matchups, and I get that. But I think CIF got this right. I think you could have. San Marino Summit, you could have flipped them, but they still would have met in the semifinals if the roads go.
Right.
And look at this. We've got some great games here. Monrovia beat Grand Terrace tonight. Colony beat Kaiser in a 23-19 game. That was really close, which is interesting. Glendora handled South Pasadena. So you've got Glendora at Colony, rematch from last year, game that Colony won when they went on to win the championship. That was a quarterfinal game. And Monrovia at Charter Oak. We're finally going to see this game next week. Don't know if it'll be an extremely close game like you would have imagined 2 or 3 years ago.
This ain't the same Monrovia.
No, but it's still a Monrovia Charter Oak game. You got San Marino going to Don Lugo, who put a beat down on Bonita tonight. And then Summit will host Chino. Those are the quarterfinalists.
San Marino was the game that I was at tonight. They got their closest game of the season, which was kind of interesting. They won 35-21. They were up 35-14. They were up 28-7 at one point. They had those 21-point leads. You thought maybe this could turn into the 35 and get to the running clock yet again, but that didn't happen.
What did you think of Diamond Ranch?
I thought Diamond Ranch was very scrappy. I thought that they just I thought the refereeing was pretty bad tonight. I'll tell you that much. And I thought that Diamond Ranch took the worst of it. Do I think that determined the outcome? No, but I wanted to stick that in there because I know the Diamond Ranch people were not happy about it, and I don't blame them. But you started to see a little bit tonight, like with San Marino, that, Shofi had 4 touchdowns, by the way, and he was fantastic. But Shofi and Santino, they weren't running by guys because you're just not going to do that, as these games get closer. Diamond Ranch had the athletes to kind of stick with them. And Glazier was still able to put the ball on the money, but plays that would have been broken for big things, in previous weeks against this team didn't happen. And you could see San Marino kind of come back, to earth a little bit because the competition was better across the board with Diamond Ranch. Diamond Ranch was physical with them, Diamond Ranch just didn't have those separators to turn this into like an upset or whatever. And San Marino's a very smart, savvy team. So you want to kind of look and say, well, what did Charter Oak do to Diamond Ranch, and what did San Marino do? I don't. I can find that score for you, but you kind of want to do kind of comparative scoring. How did Charter Oak get Diamond Ranch out of there? Did they do it? Did they do it easy? Did they? Because you want to compare, Fred. I mean, that's ultimately what we're doing. And Charter Oak beat Diamond Ranch 34-7. So you can see, San Marino, they still have a lot ahead of them. They were all asking kind of after the game. I heard different people on the sideline, even Coach Hobby, like, where's Don Lugo? They really don't. They really. I think they were kind of thinking Bonita would win.
Well, I could see you just put up a thing on Don Lugo's wall next week.
God, they're asking, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, where is it anyways?
Don Lugo's going to love that.
Chino Hills, technically.
I can remember a time when Don Lugo was not a very good program.
Yeah.
They are today.
Yeah.
Well, so anyways, but I mean,
But so I can see why they would.
Right.
That, if you're not a traditional power,
right,
you're not going to know where
they'll be out there.
Located.
Right. Yeah. There you have it. So Don Lugo's out in Chino. So, I don't know. This San Marino team, I think they're going to get another decent push next week from Don Lugo, and then we'll see, obviously, if they play Summit. But this division playing out, kind of how we thought it was. And like Freddie said, now the matchups get really kind of cool.
I'll tell you what, with San Marino, I picked them to go to the final. The fact that South Hills had that kind of game with them tonight, that kind of back and forth.
With Summit, you mean?
With Summit makes me feel really good again about San Marino. I mean, I think Don Lugo's going to be tough.
Yeah.
I still think San Marino's probably going to be better. And then the Chino Summit winner, you got to like that road. I mean, you got to like that road for them. And the top half of the bracket, this is going to get fun, though.
Yeah.
I mean, those four teams. Glendora, I just have to think that they're gonna get Colony the second time.
Yeah, with a healthy
Fink,
now.
Fink. I think he played in that game last year, but he was hobbled.
He was coming off.
Yeah, it was a bad ankle sprain that he got.
Yeah.
And then Charter Oak just rolling right now, and I think they're going to roll through Monrovia. I mean, we'll have to wait and see. We'll talk about it in the drills next week. But get ready for a Charter Oak Glendora rematch, in my opinion.
Right. I agree.
In a San Marino Summit semifinal. I mean, that's really to me what it's looking like. In a couple of weeks, we'll be talking also about Bishop Vermont probably and St. John Bosco.
Right. Moving to the Northwest Division, Maranatha was able to come away with a clutch win over Bishop Montgomery.
That's a big win.
So the Minutemen move on, but Rio Hondo Prep was blown out by Napomo. Do you have the Pasadena Poly score? I don't know if you got that in there. They played Rancho Mirage on your score list, Freddie, but it kind of looked like our teams in
Rancho Mirage 34-14.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Maranatha won 17-16, by the way. It looked like our teams in the Northwest Division were up against it. So Coach Bogan gets the win, punches the ticket into the second round, and that should mean Maranatha's at home next week against Mission Prep. So that ought to be interesting to see.
But we're gonna have.
I think that's about it.
I think we're gonna have championship weekend. The way it's looking right now, last year I think we had one team in the finals from the Tribune from the SGVN area.
Los Altos, yeah.
Los Altos, was that the only team? Did you have a team in the finals?
No, we had Pomona.
But, they were at Paraclete.
Yeah, that's the game I was at. So
we had Pomona, and there's nobody from Pass, right?
No.
Well, this year, I mean, I think we're going to have someone in the Central. We're going to have local. We're going to have the Mid Valley is still a question right now, but I think the Southeast. I think you got to really like with St. Francis rolling and your chances there. We may have a few championship games there. Something
I think we
haven't had around here for a while.
We might have a La Mirada St. Francis final. Yeah. I mean, from what I saw La Mirada tonight and how their bracket is, I can't see them losing before the final.
I don't either.
What I see is our football team's really going to make us work these next 3 weeks.
And then probably after that because there's bowls.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's get to biggest surprise, biggest disappointment of the night here.
Biggest surprise to me was South Hills giving Summit that kind of game.
Okay.
Well into the third quarter, start of the fourth, where I think it was actually third quarter, where that's a tie game against an undefeated team who's a number 2 seed. South Hills being 4-6. I mean, I think it's a really good gutsy showing by South Hills. I really do.
Biggest disappointment.
Biggest disappointment. You'll have to get. That's hard to say what the biggest disappointment is tonight.
Is it Montebello? Is it Arroyo?
You know what? Now that you throw that out, Montebello. This is the final score.
Now, we knew they didn't have Isaac Mendebles, their best player.
Yeah, but it's scary.
But they hadn't had him for like 5 weeks.
When you think of their...
longer than that.
They're a 4 seed.
Yeah, but when you think of that... What league is that again? That's the...
Almont.
The Almont?
No. The
Gold Coast?
The Gold Coast League. When you think of 3 of their teams... Blowouts. And then Pomona needed to do everything to beat their 4th at-large tonight.
Yeah. Brentwood.
I mean...
Scary.
I mean, Pomona almost lost that game. That would have been... That's how good that league is. It's a league that needs to get out of this division.
We thought it was Sierra Canyon and Paraclete, but who knew that these other teams... You want a league going up
next year? There's one.
Yeah. Sierra Canyon could be going way, way up, Fred. I mean, way, way up. Anyways, biggest disappointment to me was Montebello. They had a heck of a season. I mean, they finished 10-2, or 9-2.
9-2.
They had a heck of a season, and they had. I guess you could say they were on borrowed time not having Mendebles because eventually you're going to need your best player, and it kind of ran out. But who'd have thought it was that type of situation? And then my biggest surprise was Arroyo losing to Covina, and the way that happened, they were down big in this game. I thought this would be a back-and-forth, thrilling game, and maybe it was in the very, very end. It was 35-28, but Arroyo, both these two teams had to love the draws that they got, and Arroyo to come off that win last week, finish the season 9-1, beat Rosemead, and then boom, fall on their face at home in a playoff game. Boy, that surprised me.
I actually have a bigger disappointment. Go ahead, let me get yours, because I do have a disappointment.
My biggest surprise is Sonora and the way they won tonight. I thought they could make a game against Tustin, but to see them blow Tustin out 42-13, that kind of opens my eyes. I thought they were a good team, but I'm just totally surprised of how easily they won that game by that score. I joined you guys with Montebello. I thought Montebello would win this game, and to them to lose.
I guess we just didn't know what Viewpoint had, though.
Yeah.
It's not our area.
I guess my biggest disappointment now, then I have a chance to really look at it and think, is Baldwin Park. I thought they're a team that they were up 20-10 at half. They wound up losing 27-26 in overtime to Sure, and they had won 7 in a row. They had won the Montview League, and there were some questions about them. And I really thought they were going to be able to go into that game and get a win, Aram. That's tough for them because I know there's a big respect factor over at Baldwin Park, and this certainly doesn't help when you.
That was a good neighborhood football game with Sure, man. That's what the Mid Valley.
I thought Sure would win that game, but I thought it would be a little low scoring, and the fact that Sure had to come back and their offense had to step up to win the game. But
wasn't it 27-26?
Yeah, in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, because Sure was up 27-20, and Baldwin Park scored.
I thought you said Baldwin Park was up.
No, Sure was up 27-20, and then Baldwin Park scored, and then I guess they didn't get the 2 or they didn't get the 1.
I don't know how that ended. Whether they went. I don't know.
Anyways,
what are your? The score, Aram, the Bishop of Mont. I mean, what are your thoughts
by
just
that
looking
score.
at it? Yeah, that's the second
when I
most
looked
points
at the
in team
halftime
history.
score, and it was 51.
51-30.
I never thought they were going to lose this game, even when it was 16-0. I wasn't there, obviously, but I just thought eventually Amont's offense would get going.
When it was 16-0, I thought they could lose because I was wondering. I remember watching the Khalil Tate game and a guy that they just couldn't figure out all night. And this game had the feeling.
Yeah, but even that game they had the lead late, and the guy made a play.
You had a feeling it was going to be one of those games, and some they came down. Their first score was a long, I think, 14-play drive. They scored it, and there was like 6 minutes left in the quarter. They used the whole first quarter. Then Amont's first play from scrimmage is a fumble. They get the ball and they go score again. And you're just thinking,
I don't think anything's beating Amont unless it's named Centennial or Bosco. That's the end of that. I mean,
72 points. I mean, they and they scored. That was almost by the end of the third quarter. They scored 72.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we have the weekend to kind of talk about it, think about it. To the teams that lost, great seasons. Obviously someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. Congratulations on your season. To the teams that win and are moving on, Freddie, and getting ever closer to that Thanksgiving Day practice, congratulations. And we will be on the blogs all weekend, and we'll be back early next week, right?
That's right.
Talk about all of it and predict some games.
Check out the highlights and the interviews and some of the videos that we have that we'll be putting up. All right. Yeah, we'll be back at it. We'll decide where we're going next week and figure that out because there's going to be a lot of intriguing matchups for us to kind of decide.
Like some road games out there.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching.